I think shift-wise from 2024, like last year, 2024, you couldn't get land for clients. That was so hard. The demand was just so high, you just couldn't get anything. What's nice now is there is some land availability.
But we're looking at numbers-wise, the average kind of, is it the median house price is 806k, right? That's for a house and land package, right? Or house and land established lot, right?
Both.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde and
Catherine Smith, good morning.
Morning. I wonder when you should do the intro. I always do the intro.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
Only like 48 episodes in and maybe you can do one.
I don't even know what you say. Welcome to the Build Out West podcast with your host Catherine Smith and
Tony Hyde.
There we go.
Maybe I'll stick to it, right? Maybe you have to practice every time.
I don't have the vibe.
Oh, great. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Interested in this one. We're going to talk about a bit of an update for the first kind of quarter of the year and what we're seeing on finance, land, buildings, all that good stuff. Just a bit of a check-in to see where we're at.
Touching base.
Yeah,
2025.
And what we kind of think might happen for the rest of the year. I mean, it changes every 38 seconds at the moment, right? But
it does.
Here we are.
I mean, even the first quarter of 2025, so that's January to March, totally different to 2024.
Yeah.
You know, so many areas, just the energy's changed in so many different ways, good and bad. But let's break it down into sort of those topics, I think.
I think, before you can do anything in a building, you've got to talk about finance, right? Finance is the key. You've got to be able to fold what you're going to do. So
a lot of changes for January to March coming in Perth. The biggest one probably is Keystart.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. We did do one with Alan Vernals, I think a month or so ago,
on about it.
Charges. So if you want, you can go back and watch that episode. But he talked in depth about the changes coming. But the biggest part of that is they have increased the serviceability with Keystart. So Keystart is sort of our government lender here in WA that allows sort of those first home buyers or sort of lower income families to get in and sort of use that loan to obviously get into.
Borrowing capacities went up to try and cover it, and then also they've brought back the payment schedule back. So it's not like having to pay a rent and then paying another mortgage. It's like 50, but $100 a week, is it something? Is
$100 a week?
I think capped at $100. That kind of gets you used to paying your rent and your extra 100, which would be close to what your mortgage will be once you move in your house. So they got rid of that for a while. They brought it back in, and it's a really good way to cap your everything.
What the general gist is that Keystart's now meeting the market and what is needed, because I think for 2023, 2024, we didn't talk about Keystart a lot because they were sort of just not really,
couldn't catch up.
Playing the game of where they needed to be in terms of borrowing capacity.
I think Alan said that about it was because they're a government agency. At the time they got the ducks in a row, it changed again. But the good thing about it, you understand the good thing about Keystart is once you build a house, they want you to go and get another lender. They're not really there to make money as such. They're there to help. It's because they're a government, so it's not about the profit. Yes. They've got to make some sort of profit to cover their workers. Yeah. But after that, it's more about them making sure you've got enough equity in that house, or you've saved or whatever, that you can then remortgage or refinance with a different lender. Yeah. That's the kind of their main sort of thing. So don't let them people say this, and that's what they want. They're happy for you to move on.
The goal essentially is once you built the house, you use the benefits of Keystarts, then you refinance with, say, Bank West, Westpac, whoever, and then jump onto a lower interest rate.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. What it is.
The other part to talk about for the first quarter is the election promises. Now, we will do another quarterly update from April to June, so we'll see what happens in the election. We don't know yet because it hasn't come up, but obviously we've got the federal election coming. When is it? May 3rd, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Pretty soon.
But basically, there are policies that are going to be affecting the first home buyer market. Now, one of the big ones is going to be you're actually going to be able to withdraw 50 grand from your super for new home builds as a deposit. So this is a big policy. What's interesting is Labor and Liberal both doing it, but in different ways. So Labor is wanting to withdraw 50K of super as a deposit for established and new home builds. Liberal just want it for the next 5 years for new home builds only. So this is a huge game changer, because particularly someone who's got like 30 grand savings or whatever, if they can withdraw that 50K, that's obviously now, a good 10% deposit and that. And that's really going to help a lot of families, or, not families, but, people wanting to get a house. So this is going to be one to watch, I think, probably the next quarterly update, but it's definitely something we're sort of monitoring, because that's going to really help people be able to jump on the property ladder. So I was talking to one of my colleagues about it, and he said, do you think it's a good thing that people can do that? I said, yes, because particularly in WA, we have a lot of people who are in FIFO and they get 12% super every year. And it's just sitting there, and they can't actually get a house. They don't have the deposit. They don't have the savings. Particularly with the FIFO, I'm going to stereotype, but the FIFO men is they might work FIFO and get a good income, let's say 160K a year. But a lot of the time they have a stay-at-home wife and 2 kids, because they're FIFO. It's very hard for her to also be employed. So, 160K is a lot, but once you've got 4 people relying on it, it goes pretty quickly. That's probably the issue, is you don't have a lot of cash flow in FIFO, but you get a lot of super, right? So you're like, well, how about let's take it when they're in their 30s and 40s, withdraw that 50K, use it to get on the property ladder. That will grow exponentially, and then they get a house. So then by the time they retire, they actually got an asset, that will grow much stronger than 50K in your supers. Just sort of
definitely.
You know what I mean by that?
It's a smart investment if you do it the right area. So going by Monday, Joe.
I'm definitely keen to explore that once that happens, but we'll see in the next quarter.
Let's see if we can get a guest expert to come on and break it down into. There we go. Super guest.
Oh, they must be interesting characters.
Yeah, and the last one with that is like the RBA. The interest rates from January down now is dropped. It's not dropped huge, but from when you look at 2024, where it was like 2023, 24, it was increment. I think 24's leveled out, but 23 there was like 11 or 9 or 10 in a year or something. We've started to see it go back down a little bit, so it's went from 4.35 to like 4.10 or something. So it's not much, but it's still enough to say that but they're holding. I'm not too sure why they're holding. I think it's probably the uncertainty around the election, all the pressure from America and tariffs, and I think it's more like that. And they're probably still servicing a lot of loans because of the demand. So, but it needs to drop a little bit to really get the first home buyers back in, because that's where it's crippling people just now. Yeah,
we are expecting interest rates cuts, but I think it will happen later on in the year.
Yeah, I think so. Quarter. Yeah, I think it'll come down.
So let's talk about land for the first quarter. This has been probably one of the biggest areas, I think, shift-wise from 2024. Like last year, 2024, you couldn't get land for clients. That was so hard. We did podcasts just on securing land, I think. I was just like, that's all we talked about.
The way to get it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was just, the demand was just so high, you just couldn't get anything. What's nice now is there is some land availability. They are restricting it in certain land releases for investors and people who are like interstate and things like that. But the options to secure land is obviously less pressure is probably the word I would use. And that's been a nice ease, to work in the industry and to sort of be able to take your time and put a bit of, they're now allowing 48-hour holds on blocks, where before... So that's very exciting, which, no one would care about besides Tony. But, 48-hour holds is a game changer than what we were doing 6 months ago.
I've not done much recently with where I've had to worry about LOEs and things like that, because I've been pushing the clients to have, pre-approval. That's it. I've just been like, no, we're pre-approving and doing the hard jobs because it's the safest way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're looking at numbers wise. So the average is it the median house price is 806K, right? That's for a house and land package, right? Or house and land established a lot, right?
Both, yeah. So in the Perth metro area, so from Yanchep down to, I'm going to say Rockingham, the median 4x2 now is 806,000. So across the board.
Yeah.
Where the median in Perth, 3-4 years ago was in the 500s. Now we're low 8s.
When we're looking at land outside of like maybe the new estate popping up, that we're still looking at 300K plus for land at the moment.
Most land is in the 3s.
And where that's hurting people is the stamp duty on above 300K, but it's the stamp duty on, is it whatever it is, and the stamp duty, and that's hurting a lot of first home buyers because that eats into their deposit, because it doesn't class as a deposit. It's what you need to do. It's like a government payment. I'm hearing through the grapevine, and I'm probably somebody can update me. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be increased. I'm hearing up to 400k. So if you're buying land, it's 400k and then maybe 650 on a house or something like that, so that the stamp duty isn't getting smashed.
Yeah.
Again, why the stamp duty? It's an old thing that doesn't need to be here anymore, because we get taxed on all our money anyway, so it shouldn't really be there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But here we are having to pay stamp duty on something that I don't think you have to.
Yes.
I'm hoping that's going to be increased, because once that increases and we don't have to worry about paying it, it opens up the market to a whole lot of, especially first home buyers, especially in that key start bracket.
Yes.
Where they're running on really tight budgets and stuff like that.
I think he's got waived stamp duty though, to be fair.
Does it? I think I don't know. I think it's still. I think it's still stuck.
Someone correct us in the
please.
comments.
We have you, man. All these finance people.
I'm not a stamp duty guy.
I'll be honest. We get roughly where you're at, and then we send you to the finance broker to tell us what we need to do. Otherwise,
ask me for stamp duty advice. It's my space.
Well, the reason we do that as well is you have to be trained and signed off and certified to give that financial advice. We know a little bit, and then I don't jump into that area because I don't want to give you the wrong advice. But I know roughly from speaking about these are the things you look at. When it gets a bit convoluted, I definitely pass it on. I think you're the same, Catherine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get yourself in a bit of. We've had some horror stories. But anyway, back to that. Yeah, that's where I think where if we can see that, if we can see that land price and we see that stamp duty increasing to a higher level, I think we'll see a lot more coming into the market. Just where we are priced at the moment.
I think also the issue with land is the land sizing. So where they subdivided it, let's say 8 months ago, it's now going to market today, sort of that first quarter of 2025.
Yep.
Now, what that basically means is last year they wanted quick subdivision. So most of them were sort of 375 square meters to 450 square meters, sort of 15 by 30 or 12.5 by 30. Now was sort of the cookie cutter stuff. Before, the boom that we had, the last couple of years, we had smaller blocks, sort of 10-meter frontages. We had 300 square meter blocks, 315 square meters. Yeah. That's very normal. Now, when you look at the size, they're all quite big, sort of 375 plus. Great for families and things like that, but the affordability has now really shifted because so much of the costing is in the actual land component.
Yeah.
I would like to see, hopefully, the next quarter update we do, there will be more releases on smaller blocks, because I think that's what's hurting the first home buyers, because you're like, if there was a block 50 grand cheaper because it's 50 square meters cheaper, it's a game changer. What happened as well is everyone was very busy for like a lot of years. So builders didn't want to do 10-meter frontages. They didn't want to do the 7.5s. Everyone removed that from their floor plans, and there was no market for that. But we need to bring them back because we need to get the sort of options for those sort of lower income families or first.
I'm seeing a lot of people coming through that they don't want, they wanted a 4x2 in a theatre because it cost them 450k for the full shebang and they could afford it. Right, all of it. Now, with the affordability, and I'm seeing a lot of youngsters, they don't want all that space. We don't need it all. They just see it as a waste. So that new generation size.
Or even just going, I can only borrow 650. Like, get me something. Give me whatever.
Why do I need 4 bedrooms when there's only me and my partner?
Give me a 10-meter frontage or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
We've seen that,
the subdivisions that they've done. I'm hoping they've gotten feedback from sort of those first home buyer builders to go, hey, can we get smaller subdivisions, because our target market is obviously people sort of 650k range.
Yeah. Get down to
we need to get land.
Then at 10.5 metre frontage.
Yeah.
Because they do 10.5 metre frontage. So 10.5 metre frontage, the reason they stop at 10.5, if they go below 10.5, they go to single garages, or your frontage is really weird. It's to do with like
but it's also the boundary, and there's a lot of things with in the 7.5s. Most people aren't doing them now, but I'm hoping land sort of becomes a little bit more smaller.
Yeah, and I'm with you there, and I think if they move the stamp duty, we'll see a big influx and we'll get it going again, hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully.
So in terms of builds have been, price-wise been steady, and I think that's been really positive for the first quarter is...
Seen a little bit gone up.
Yeah, but nothing aggressive. The only changes is obviously the energy efficiency. Obviously everyone's sort of having to, cater for that. But price-wise, everyone's sort of much of the muchness. There hasn't been any sort of aggressive price increases that we've seen over the last couple of years, like post-COVID times. In terms of timeframes, a lot of builders are now doing that 12-month build timeframe guarantee, which is nice. If you're building in a stereotypical sort of green estate, looking sort of 9-10 month builds as well.
So with the guarantee as well, it will be in your green fuel estates. Any builders that touch battle axes or in established areas, they won't give you the 12-month guarantee, and that's just down to mostly timings, getting trades in there, getting supplies in there. They kind of put it at the back of the burner. It's a too hard basket.
Variations, I think.
You know, you think of a tradie can rock up on a new estate, they can all park on the street, there's no one worrying about it, it's all just sand. They can play their music and they can just rip in, right, and get it done. In an established area, they've got to be conscious of all the other cars, and it just becomes a little bit more painful. And some trades will just say no.
You don't know the levels, and
it's all out, right? It's a lot more to think about, and yeah, that's where a lot of builders just going, we don't need to touch that area just now because it's a bit too much effort.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
But generally speaking, if you're in an estate area, it should be a sort of 9-10 month build for the sort of larger project builders, maybe a little bit slower for small guys, things like that. But the timeframes are now getting a bit more secure, a bit more guarantees.
Yeah, I'm seeing, I'd say that 10 months, 10.5 months, it'd run it. It depends the site, it depends where. It really, honestly depends where.
Yeah.
And a lot depends on how good your supervisor is. If you've had a supervisor that's been in that area for a long time, you're going to be winning because you'll have all these trades ready to rock and roll. Seen it, been there, lived it, looked at it, watched it. It's completely, that's where it is.
Price point wise, you're looking, what do you think, for a 4x2 now?
340 to 350, 60-ish, not including site works.
Yeah. So site works, you're saying about 20, 25?
Yeah. And that's probably just turnkey basic, so probably not including aircon, basic flooring.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just the basic stuff, if you really want to
say
go
with site works and everything, sort of
400-ish.
380.
400.
And then 400 if you want nice aircon and things like that.
Yeah. So it can jump up and down again, but if you want to, if you're one of these people that's, let's get me into a decent size block, get in, and I'll do a lot of the stuff. I think you're the same. We'll talk about if you're building your house and you want to increase size, do it at the build, and then sacrifice on your niceties like your, not stone bench tops, whatever they're called now, and don't get the painting done, do the painting yourself. There's little things you can do. It's a bit more of a pain, but it will help you save some sort of costs on the long run. But there are certain things, put an extra shower head in, get it done with the builder, because of the waterproofing and all. There's just little things that make sense to do as a build, because trying to put an extra meter on the back of your house after the build is just not going to work, right?
Put your money in structural things, I think that's what Tony's trying to say.
Just for us say. That's what I say. Structure and then fancy up later, right?
Yeah. So really in a nutshell, I'd like to summarize the last quarter, 3 months, January to March. Affordability, first home buyers are coming back in. Median house price, low 8s now. Yep. Most house land packages are in the 7s now. There is limited supply for land, but it is much better than last year. I think that's probably the feedback we're getting as well.
Absolutely. So it's kind of stabilised. It's kind of just sat. There's not been any massive, huge jumps around.
Yes.
But I think it's all waiting on seeing what's happening. Yes. I reckon around, we're still seeing huge numbers of immigration coming into the country.
Yeah.
I know the mining's slowed down a little bit, but it's not. If you go on to Seek, have you seen the amount of jobs that's out there now? Even just geosampling, driving out the car and collecting the samples. There's loads of those jobs. There's lots and lots of jobs out there for people to come out and do that.
Unemployment's very low in WA.
But they can't fill the jobs, right? Yeah. They can't. There's plenty of jobs.
Well, yeah, the population's coming in. I don't think the price is going to go down for that reason. But yeah, it is still limited, but it's really just about being realistic price point wise where we're at with things as well. I'm hoping the next quarter we'll get some updates on the election, what's happening with that. That will be very interesting. And then also the land sizing. Hopefully they are going to be a little bit smaller and a bit more accommodating for younger families and sort of first time buyers. And
the immigration thing I think it's going to run longer in the mining, China, America and all that. That'll have an impact. It won't impact. We won't do a tariff podcast. No one wants to hear about it. But it will have an impact on how much we mine or how much we grow, because there's growth there. There's lots of growth in the mines, but they all seem to just be sitting. I've got a good friend at FMG and he's like, we're just holding at the moment. We're just holding to see where we go. So alrighty. Anyway, as always, like, share, and please give us your comments, especially some of the stuff that we're just not 100% sure on. We'd love to hear it. I think we'll probably, in the next couple of months, we're probably getting another finance guy to talk about all this stuff that's happening. Yes. So you get the right advice. But again, like, share, follow, please subscribe. We'd love you to subscribe, please. And we'll talk to you next time. Goodbye. Bye.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.